So these are the skills that we are going to go over here in our session. Clarissa showed you the activity that we're going to create. But basically, we're going to be working with shapes, text boxes, images, and doing some formatting as we go through. So hopefully you have your mail open. And from your mail, if you would go to the app launcher and select Google Drive. Let me give everyone a second to get into their Google Drive. And then once you are in Drive, you want to select New. And you want to go down to where it says Google Slides. And you can just click there. If it goes over, you can select blank presentation, but you should be able to just click on Google Slides. All right, and as my presentation is loading and coming up, the first thing that I might want to do for this presentation is I want to give it a name so that when I look back in Google Drive later, I'm able to find it. So where it says Untitled Presentation, I can select there and change that to my favorite. Maybe I'll just put sample for me, but you can name it whatever makes sense for you. All right, so now we have this theme box that pops up when we open a new slide. We can close that because we're not gonna need that for today. So I can click on the X to close that out. And the next thing I need to do is I want to change the size of my page. My slide right now is in landscape view, and I want to change that so that it's in portrait view. So in order to do that, I need to go up to File, and then go down to where it says Page Setup. So go ahead down and click on Page Setup. And the default is set at widescreen, but we can change that by selecting the drop down and go to Custom. So we went to File, Page Setup, and then once we got that pop-up box, we're changing the drop down to say Custom. Uh-oh, someone else started sharing their screen. I'm going. All right, let me go back to sharing for a second. All right, so now we need to change the size. So I'm gonna make it 8.5, 8.5 by 11, and click Apply. All right, so now here it is in our portrait view. We wanna change the layout as well. So we can go to Slide, Apply Layout, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom and choose that blank layout. All right, so now we have a nice clean page to begin working with. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start making some shapes on our page because we need to make that background. When we look at the example, you can see here that we have basically rectangles, 2 rectangles and 4 squares. So that's what we're going to start out by making on our presentation. All right, so to find your shape tool, it should be here on your toolbar. You should see a circle and a square. If you do not see it, another way to get to it is through the Insert menu, and you can go down to Shapes and then go over. So whichever one makes most sense for you, I'm going to use the Shape tool from the toolbar. All right, and then I'm going to click on Shapes, and I'm going to go for that very first shape, the rectangle shape. And I want to draw my rectangle across the top because this is going to be my header. So I don't need it to be too big, but big enough that I can add that information there. So I have my header. When I let go from drawing, it makes the rectangle for me and it's automatically shaded in this gray color. If I don't like that gray, which I don't, I want to change it by clicking on the paint bucket icon. So now if I have it selected, I can see a paint bucket that allows me to change the color. All right, so let me go through what I just did again, just in case some of us are catching up. I went to the shape tool, clicked on shapes, and selected the rectangle. And then I'm drawing my rectangle across, and I don't want to let go until I have it just the size that I want it to be. And then I can let go. All right. Now to change the color, I'm going to my paint bucket. And I can pick which color I would like. So maybe I want it to be the yellow. So I'm going to pick my yellow color and fill in the paint bucket. So we have our first shape there. Now we're ready to make our next shape, and that's going to be a square. So we're going to go back up to our shape tool again, and we're going to come to shapes. And even though we're making a square, we're still going to select that first rectangle tool. It's just that when we're drawing it, we're going to make sure that we're drawing it more in a square shape. So I wanted to take up about maybe half of the page going across, because this is going to be our containers where the students are going to drag their favorite item into it. So I have it about halfway, and we can always resize if we need to later. And then when I have it the way I want it to be, I'm going to let go so that the shape can form. So we have our shape there. All right, now that we have our shape, and I want to make sure that everyone is with me. So if someone needs me to slow down, I see I was going a little fast. So I want to make sure that I back it up and make sure that we have our two shapes that are on our slide at this point. We have a rectangle and we have a square. And if you need me to show that again, how I made it, I'll do that again for those that might need it again. So I got my blank slide. I went to my shape tool and went down to shapes. And then I went to my rectangle, and Clarissa's putting in chat how to change our page layout. That was under File, Page Setup, and we changed it from widescreen to custom. And then from there, we put in 8.5 by 11 and clicked apply. To have both windows on the screen, you'll probably need to resize each of the windows. So you'll have to go to the corner of your browser window and kind of resize it in so that you can see my screen and yours. So what I can do now is I'm going to show this step, and this may help for those who is going too fast. How about I'll show the step and then I'll pause so that you can create on your side. Okay. So again, we made that rectangle shape by going to our shape. I'm going to show it now and then give you an opportunity to make. So I'm going to click on the shapes icon, go to shapes, click on the rectangle, hold it down I have to hold my cursor down while I'm making my shape, and then let go once I have it the size that I need it to be. And then again, we did our fill color by clicking on the bucket that was up on our menu, and we filled it in with whatever color you want it to be. And then we went back again to our shapes to make that square. So we went to the shape icon again, shapes, clicked on the same first shape that was available. And now I'm coming to draw a square. And when I get it where I want it to be, I let go. But for my square, I don't want it to be that green color. So I'm going to go back and make it a white color. Now, before you go and try on your own, there's two other things that I want to do with this. For the shape, I want you to also, let's increase the thickness of our lines so that the students can really see that this is its own shape. So I can do that by looking on my menu bar, and next to the paint bucket, I have a little pencil for my border color, and then I have some lines. That's the border weight. So if I select that border weight, I'm going to change it to 4, just so I can have a thicker line. And I'm going to do that for my rectangle as well. So I'm going to give you a few moments to make sure that you have your rectangle and your square, and you've colored in your rectangle at the top. I'm going to go back to my other one and do that here as well. Remember, we're making just a rectangle and a square. We're making sure that when we make that square, we're going to color it in with our paint bucket to be white. But the rectangle is our header, so we can give that some color. Okay, so hopefully we have those two shapes on our screen at this point. And you can now look back on my screen to see the next step that we're going to do. So before we make our additional squares, we're going to add some text into our squares. So I want you to double click in the square, and you're going to see a little tiny cursor that's blinking. And you can look on my screen first and then do on yours if you want. So I have a tiny little cursor that's blinking there, but it's in the middle of my square. And that's not where I want my text to appear. I want my text to appear at the top of the square. So to make that adjustment, I have to align this cursor to be up at the top. And how I do that is I can look on my toolbar. And for me, because my screen is small, I have to go to the 3 dots for more. You may see it already on yours. But I want to go to where I see the Align tool section. So it's the one that has all of the lines going to the left side. And if I wanted to click on the drop down, I would see that I could center things and do right justification. But underneath of that, and you may have an arrow pointing down to see this underneath section, it also allows me to align to the top, the middle, or the bottom of the box. I want to align it to the top. So I'm going to click on top. So again, I went to my Align tool on the menu bar. I had to click a drop down to see the more options, and I'm selecting top so that my cursor is now blinking up there at the top. All right. Once we've done that, we have our shape the way we want it to look, but we need 3 more of these shapes, of these squares, to be the containers for each one of our sections. So to make our additional containers, while this box is selected, on my keyboard, if you have a Mac, you're going to select Command and D. If you have a PC, you're going to select Control and D at the same time. So Command D duplicates that square, and I need to make sure that I duplicate it 3 times so I have 4 squares. So again, Command D for Macs, Control D for PCs. But you have to have that square selected the first time in order for it to duplicate. And once you have your 4 squares, then we need to arrange them on our page. So we're just going to make them look like a table. I'll give you a second that has that. So if you see click add a title and subtitle, you can delete those boxes because we're making our own shapes. So if you saw when you created your slide, I'll add a new slide here. And it looks like this. Click to add a title and text. We can delete those by selecting that box and then just pressing your delete key. So you have a blank slide, and then you can use your shapes. The cursor, when you click inside of the box, is when you should see that cursor. You might have to double click on the box in order to see that cursor, but it'll disappear if you click off of it. So it's only there when you double click on it. All right, so we have one more shape that we want to put on here. And that other shape is a rectangle that we're going to put at the bottom. So we kind of have a footer of our page as well. So you'll remember, we go up to the shape tool, down to shapes, and then click that rectangle, and we're going to draw a box down here at the bottom. Same thing that we did at the top, we're doing at the bottom. And we're going to adjust our color by using that paint bucket again. And we can adjust the line weight by selecting our line icon again as well and selecting 4. Okay, so we should have all of our shapes. I'll give you a second to have all of our table kind of set up here for our students to then be able to drag things in. All right, so our next part is going to be now to add the text. We need some labels and we need our header text. So let's start by doing our header text by adding a text box. So in this rectangle, we're going to come up to our toolbar and you should see a square that has a T in it. That's the text box. I'm going to click and draw my text box in the center. And again, I have a cursor there that's ready to type. However, it's set for my font size to be 14. I want to increase that font size. So I'm going to select where it says 14, and I'm going to go down and change it to 60. So that I have a nice big cursor there. Also, I'm going to change my font style. So if I want to change my font style, if I click here where the drop down is next to Arial, I'll be able to see all of these different font styles that I have. So for today, if I wanted to add an additional font style, I could click here where it says more fonts. And this allows me to add more fonts that Google has. So everything that is selected with the blue check mark, those are things that are in my font menu. But if I wanted another font to include, I can click on any of these other ones. For today, I'm just going to look for a particular one and call it, it's called Century Gothic. So I'm just showing you how you would add in additional fonts if you want to. So I'm going to click on the Century Gothic because I want to add that in and click OK. So now that's selected as my font choice and I can type my favorite. So we have our title. Now we need to add in our labels for each box. For this one, it's okay for it to be Arial, but we do want to make it a bigger font size. So again, I'm going to change it from 14 and maybe I'm going to make this one 30. And I'm going to label my sections. So this first one is going to be color. Over to the next size, it'll be pet, maybe their favorite pet. In my box beneath, I'm going to label that for shape. Yep. But I started typing and it didn't change my font. So I need to change my font size. And then my last box is going to be fruit. And again, I want to change my font size. So I'll give you a second to go ahead and type in the categories for each box. We have color, pet, shape, and fruit. Once we have all of our words in, we want to save this as our background image. Okay? Because if I leave it the way it is now and I give it to my students, when they come, they might click here and they might select the box when they're trying to drag it and everything gets out of whack. So they might start moving the things that I don't want them to move, like our text box and things like that. So I'm gonna show you how to change. I'm gonna delete this slide just so we don't get confused. And I'm gonna show you how to save this as a background image. So wherever you are in your building, if you change and look over to see how we save as a background image, then you can try it on yours. All right, so to save it, I'm going to go up to File. And I want to go down, and I actually am saying save, but it's really downloading it. I want to go to File and go to Download. And then I want to come over to where it says PNG. So I'm downloading this as a PNG file. So File, Download, PNG. And it's downloading it to the bottom of, I'm in Chrome. So if I'm using Google Chrome, it'll put my downloads right down there at the bottom shelf for me to get. So now that I've downloaded it as an image, I want to insert it again on a new slide. So to bring in a new slide, I'm going to go up to Slide. new slide, and it gives me a new blank slide. Now, if your slide comes in when you try it and it comes in with click to add title and click to add subtitle, then you are going to delete those boxes like I showed earlier, just by clicking on the box and selecting delete. All right. Now, to bring in our image, I'm gonna get hopefully everyone, let me pause there. Go ahead and download, if you haven't downloaded your background slide, let's do that now. So I'll walk you through it as you're doing it. Select the slide that has your My Favorite and your boxes. Go up to File. Go to Download and choose PNG. Okay, and then that file should download to the bottom of your screen on your taskbar. Right, once you have it there, you're going to go up to Slide, New Slide, and then a new slide should appear underneath your initial slide. And again, if it comes with the click to add title and subtitle boxes, then you need to make sure that you delete those boxes. All right, so hopefully we have our image saved, is downloaded on our taskbar, and we have a new blank slide to work with. Now we want to add that image to our new blank slide. So you'll notice that when I'm on this slide, I now have some different options on my menu bar. And one of them is background. So I'm going to select where it says background. And again, you can watch first, and then I'll give you a few moments to do it yourself. So I'm going to select background. Here is where I could make my background color, my slide a background color. But for today, I'm actually going to choose an image. So I'm going to click choose image. And then Google asked me, where can I upload that image? Again, if you're in Chrome, you can simply drag from your taskbar at the bottom and drop it right there on that page. And it's going to load. It's going to give you a window that says, do you want to add it to the theme or click done? We just want to click done. And now it's put my image here on the slide. So you'll notice I cannot move this text. I can't edit anything because this is now an image, a background image. I'm gonna give you a few moments to do those steps. So again, we selected background. We went to choose image. And then we found our image, which is hopefully downloaded to the bottom of your screen. If not, you can click browse and locate where you saved it. And then you're just going to drag your image and drop it onto those, on top of those clouds. And then it will give you a pop-up and you can select done. And while we're doing that, I'm also going to take a moment while you're going through those steps and share this with Clarissa. So for our next step, you can see us adding some of those images. All right, so hopefully we all now have two slides. We have one Slide 1 is the one that is our text box that we can click on and we can make changes. Slide 2 is the one that we would be using for our students where we can't make changes to the background. And that's the one that's going to be our drag and drop. All right, so now we need to add the items that the students are going to actually be able to drag onto our containers here. So we're going to use our outside of the slide for that. This is called our canvas. And this is where we can add additional things. So for our color, we're going to use shapes here, but we're going to use the same shape. So maybe we go to a circle, and again, you can watch, and then I'll give time for you to do. So I'm going to click on my circle, and I'm going to make a shape. And I know you said color, why are we making shapes? Because we are going to just fill in each one of these circles with a different color. So once I make my shape small enough that I can have about 6 of them outside of this square, again, I could change my border weight if I wanted to make it a little thicker. I don't have to though, I could leave it the way it was, it's up to you. But I do want to fill it in with a color. So I'm going to make this one maybe red. All right, while it's selected, just like we did with our squares, we can duplicate it. So I'm going to do Command, again, if you're on a Mac, Command D. And if you're on a PC, Control D. And I'm going to make about 6 circles. 6. And then I'm going to arrange them just like we did with our squares. And then you're just going to use the paint bucket to color in each circle a different color. Okay, so instead of red, I'll select my second one and make that yellow. Maybe my third one will be green. So I'm giving you a chance to go ahead now and make your circles and fill them in with some colors. You can pick whatever colors you want to have there. So all we did was make the circle shape from our shapes bar, our shapes menu. Okay, for our next section, which is shapes, we're going to go back to our shapes menu again. And this time you're going to bring in some different shapes that the students could select from. Most of them you will find by clicking under that first one, shapes. You can do your rectangle like we did earlier, square, triangle, circle. If you want a heart, they have a heart here. If you are looking for the star that we had in our example, that would be under callouts. So you can go to callouts and make a star. But we're going to add about 6 different shapes to come in. Or you can have 4. It's up to your choice of what you would like. So I'm going to have a rectangle. My triangle. A circle, and so forth. So you're making your shapes. And then for those of you that may be moving a little faster, we're getting your shapes. Once you have them done, you are going to color them in with whatever color you would like, or you can just choose to color the border. So because of time, I also want you to see how we bring in our images as well. So I'm gonna ask that you look on the screen so that we can discuss the images. And I think Clarissa was showing, kind of because she's in as well, how you can shade in or actually change the color of the border if you need to. So with our time getting short, I want to show us the image part. So that's how we can do our images over here for pet and fruit. And then I will let you all work so that you can start working and I can address some of the other questions that I see in chat as well. So for our images, for our pets, we're going to come up to insert, our insert menu, and go to image, and then come over to where it says search the web. That's going to open up a pop-up box for search for images. And the key for when we're searching for our images is that we want to use the word transparent. So if I'm looking for a dog, I might want to type in dog transparent because it will allow me to have a dog that doesn't have a white background or any other type of background there that I can pull in. Now these are all, I have regular, real dogs and clip art. So if I want it to be clip art, I might want to use the word clip art in my search and do dog clip art. And then transparent. Uh-oh, we're gonna have to leave soon. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you bringing in a dog. I select one. And then at the bottom, I have an insert. I click on insert. Of course, that one does not allow me to come in. Let me try another one real quick. Hopefully this one. It's in, but it's really big. So I'm gonna use my corners to resize and bring my image in. And I would do that for each pet and each fruit that I wanna bring in. So you can look for cartoon shapes, you can look for clip art, but the key is also saying to look for transparent. All right, so I can change that to a cat.